In 1882, a scientific expedition aboard the HMS Challenger was trawling the deep Atlantic, dragging nets through waters that had never been sampled before. When they hauled up their catch from nearly 10,000 feet below the surface, the crew found themselves staring at something that looked like it had been pulled from a nightmare. A fish, if you could even call it that, with a mouth so enormous it seemed to make up half its body. The jaw hung open, slack and distended, revealing a cavernous interior large enough to swallow fish several times its own size. The scientists didn't know what to make of it. The proportions were wrong. The anatomy was wrong. Everything about it violated the basic rules of what a fish should look like. This was a gulper eel. And the more we learn about it, the more it seems like evolution just gave up halfway through. See, most eels are sleek, muscular predators. They're built for speed, for squeezing into tight spaces, for active hunting. But the gulper eel looks like someone took the concept of an eel and stretched it to its absolute breaking point. Its body is long and thin, sometimes reaching over 3 feet, but it's weak, almost flimsy. It doesn't have the muscle mass of a normal eel. It doesn't have the streamlined shape. What it does have is a mouth so absurdly large that it dominates the entire front half of its body. And that mouth is the key to understanding everything about this creature. Because in the deep ocean, where food is scarce and opportunities are rare, the gulper eel made a choice. It sacrificed everything else, speed, strength, even basic body structure, for one single advantage: the ability to eat absolutely anything that crosses its path. The gulper eel's mouth is a biological impossibility. When closed, it looks relatively normal, just an eel with a slightly oversized jaw. But when it opens, the entire structure unfolds like some kind of horrifying umbrella. The jaw can extend outward and downward, creating a massive pouch that balloons out to many times the size of the eel's head. In most fish, the jaw is a rigid structure. It opens to a fixed size, limited by bone and muscle. But the gulper eel's jaw is barely connected to the rest of its skull. It's held together by thin, flexible ligaments that allow it to stretch in ways that shouldn't be physically possible. The lower jaw can swing down almost 180 degrees, creating a gaping cavity that looks less like a mouth and more like a biological net. And here's what makes it even stranger. The gulper eel's mouth isn't just big, it's weak. There are no powerful jaw muscles, no crushing bite force, no ability to fight struggling prey. The entire structure is designed for one thing, and one thing only: engulfing. The eel swims forward with its mouth open, and anything small enough to fit inside gets swept in with a rush of water. Then the mouth closes, the water is expelled through the gills, and whatever got caught inside is trapped. It's not hunting, it's filtering. The gulper eel is essentially a living trawl net, drifting through the abyss with its mouth wide open, hoping something edible floats in. But here's the disturbing part. That pouch-like mouth can expand so large that the eel can swallow prey bigger than itself. Its stomach is equally elastic, capable of stretching to accommodate meals that would kill most other fish. Imagine eating something twice your own body weight, and then just floating there, bloated and distended, digesting for weeks. That's the gulper eel's entire survival strategy. If the mouth is bizarre, the rest of the gulper eel is even worse. Its body is long and ribbon-like, but it's not muscular. It's not built for speed or power. In fact, the gulper eel is one of the weakest swimmers in the deep ocean. Its tail tapers down to an impossibly thin filament that ends in a glowing photophore, a small organ that produces bioluminescent light. That light is a mystery. No one knows exactly what it's for. Some scientists think it's used to attract prey, a glowing lure at the end of a fishing line. Others believe it might be used to attract mates or to confuse predators. But the truth is, we don't know, because we've barely ever seen a living gulper eel in its natural habitat. The few times we have encountered them, they've been hovering motionless in the water, their bodies hanging vertically or drifting at strange angles. They don't dart around like normal fish. They don't hide in crevices or burrow into the sediment. They just float, suspended in the darkness, waiting. And here's what's truly unsettling. The gulper eel has almost no bone structure. Its skeleton is cartilaginous, flexible, barely able to support its own weight. On land, the gulper eel would collapse into a shapeless blob. But in the water, where buoyancy does most of the work, it doesn't need bones. It doesn't need strength. It just needs to stay afloat and keep its mouth open. Its eyes are tiny, almost useless. In the pitch-black depths where it lives, vision is pointless anyway. Instead, the gulper eel relies on its lateral line, a sensory organ that detects vibrations and pressure changes in the water. When something moves nearby, when prey disturbs the stillness of the abyss, the eel senses it, and then, slowly, almost lazily, it drifts toward the disturbance with its mouth already open. To understand the gulper eel, you have to understand the world it lives in. Step down into the bathed hypelagic zone, 3,000 to 13,000 feet below the surface, where the pressure is crushing and the temperature hovers just above freezing. No sunlight has ever reached this depth. No plants grow here. The entire ecosystem is built on scraps, on the slow rain of organic debris falling from the sunlit world above. This is a place of extreme scarcity. Prey is rare. Predators are rare. Life itself is rare. And in this environment, traditional hunting strategies don't work. You can't afford to chase prey. You can't afford to fight for food. Every calorie burned has to be worth it, because the next meal might not come for weeks or months. So the gulper eel evolved a strategy of maximum efficiency. It doesn't hunt, it doesn't search, it just exists, hovering in the water with its mouth open, turning itself into a passive trap. And when something, anything, drifts into that massive maw, the eel doesn't question it. It swallows. The gulper eel's diet is as bizarre as its body. Based on stomach contents from the few specimens we've examined, it eats whatever it can catch. Small fish, crustaceans, squid, even jellyfish. There's no specialization, no preference. The gulper eel is the ultimate opportunist, a creature that has abandoned the idea of being picky in favor of just eating everything. And in the deep ocean, where opportunities are so rare that you might only encounter prey once a week, this strategy makes perfect sense. The gulper eel doesn't need to be fast. It doesn't need to be strong. It just needs to be there, mouth open, ready to capitalize on any chance that comes its way. Here's something that should disturb you. We have no idea how gulper eels reproduce. None. We've never observed them mating. We've never found their eggs. We've never seen a juvenile gulper eel. Everything we know about their reproduction is pure speculation based on anatomy and comparison to other deep-sea fish. What we do know is this: gulper eels, like many deep-sea creatures, probably spawn only once in their lifetime. They likely migrate to specific breeding grounds, release their eggs and sperm into the water, and then die. But where those breeding grounds are, when this happens, how the larvae develop, all of it is a complete mystery. Some researchers believe that gulper eel larvae might live in shallower waters, slowly descending to the abyss as they mature. Others think they might hatch in the deep ocean and stay there their entire lives. But without direct observation, without catching juveniles or witnessing spawning behavior, we're just guessing. And that's the thing about deep-sea creatures. Even the most basic aspects of their biology, things we take for granted in shallow water fish, remain completely unknown. The gulper eel has been known to science for over 140 years, and we still can't answer fundamental questions about how it lives. We've encountered living gulper eels fewer than a few dozen times in recorded history. Most of what we know comes from dead specimens, fish caught accidentally in deep-sea trawls or washed up on beaches after storms. And when these specimens are brought to the surface, they're almost always damaged, their delicate bodies crushed by the rapid change in pressure. The few video encounters we have are haunting. The eel hangs in the water, its body oriented vertically, its massive mouth hanging open like a cave. Sometimes it moves, a slow, undulating motion that barely qualifies as swimming. Sometimes it just hovers, perfectly still, waiting for something to happen. In one famous encounter, a remotely operated vehicle disturbed a gulper eel, and the creature responded by inflating its massive mouth to an even larger size, possibly as a threat display. Its body ballooned outward, transforming into something that looked more like a parachute than a fish. And then, just as quickly, it deflated and disappeared into the darkness. That's the gulper eel's life. Long periods of stillness punctuated by brief moments of activity. No drama, no excitement, just waiting, swallowing, digesting, and waiting again. So if the gulper eel is so weak, so fragile, so poorly equipped for active predation, how has it survived for millions of years? Well, the answer is that the gulper eel isn't competing with anyone. In the deep ocean, there are no apex predators in the traditional sense. There are no fast-moving hunters, no territorial disputes, no competition for resources. The environment is so extreme that only the most specialized creatures can exist there at all. And the gulper eel, with its bizarre body plan and passive feeding strategy, has found a niche that almost nothing else can exploit. It doesn't need to be strong, because there's nothing to fight. It doesn't need to be fast, because there's nothing to chase. It doesn't need to be smart, because the strategy is simple. Open mouth, wait, swallow, repeat. In the deep ocean, simplicity is survival. And perhaps most importantly, the gulper eel has almost no natural predators. The few creatures that live at these depths are either too small to threaten it or too rare to pose a consistent danger. The gulper eel's biggest enemy isn't predation, it's starvation, and its entire body is designed to mitigate that risk by being able to eat anything, anytime, regardless of size. The gulper eel is a reminder that evolution doesn't always produce elegant solutions. Sometimes it produces something that looks like a mistake, a creature so bizarre that it seems like it shouldn't work. And yet it does. The gulper eel has been living in the deep ocean for millions of years, quietly proving that in the right environment, even the strangest adaptations can be successful. We still don't know how many species of gulper eel exist. We don't know their full range, their population numbers, or even their basic behavior. Every specimen we recover raises more questions than it answers. Every video encounter shows us something we didn't expect. The deep ocean is full of creatures like this, animals that challenge our assumptions, that break the rules, that remind us how little we actually understand about life on our own planet. And the Gulper eel, with its nightmare mouth and ribbon-like body, is one of the strangest of them all. And that's the thing about the deep ocean. It's not just unexplored, it's fundamentally alien. A place where life has evolved in directions we never could have predicted. And in that darkness, creatures like the Gulper eel drift through the void, mouths open, waiting for whatever the ocean decides to send their way. If you enjoyed diving into the weird world of the Gulper eel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next journey into the deep. And if you're ready for something even stranger, check out this video next. You won't believe what else is lurking down there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.